If you're someone with £0 in your savings and investments, you probably feel very stressed and anxious about your money right now and feel like you're hanging onto your paycheck by the skin of your teeth. But from my experience of being someone who was a serial overspender, had £0 in savings and was completely useless with money, to now someone who has over a six-figure net worth and is completely financially literate, I think I've cracked the code on how you can create a personal roadmap that works for you. So by the end of this video, I not only hope that you have a step-by-step plan of action, but you also just start to feel a little bit more enthusiastic about your money. Because it shouldn't just all be about arguments and surviving, it should be about experiences and abundance. So let's get into it. Okay, so step one, and probably one of the most important steps in this 10-step plan, is to change the victim mentality. You wouldn't believe the amount of comments I get over on my short form channels on TikTok and Instagram, so if you don't follow them, go and follow them in the description down below, that say, what is the point of saving £50? Or I can't even save £50, what are you talking about? Or the old, oh, it must be nice to save money. These are some of the comments I get so regularly over on my short form channels. And I do get, for a small portion of the UK that are actually in poverty, that might not be possible. £50 might be so far out of reach. But for the majority of people in the UK, I bet you probably my life savings, if I could look at your budget, I could tell you somewhere where you could save just £50. Like, I would love to sit down and track someone's spending and go, haha, that is exactly where you can save money. Because I get it, the UK has a toxic culture around money, and we always talk about how money doesn't grow on trees, how you shouldn't go outside your comfort zone, and how you should just stick in your box. But that doesn't mean you have to listen to all of the jokes made about saving money. You don't have to believe everything that anyone says in the UK. Instead, you need to have a very introspective sit down with yourself and say, does this mindset actually suit me? Because just because that mentality is the norm doesn't mean it's right. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the banter of the UK. I think it's honestly probably the best in the world, but there are certain times where you need to just rein it in and realize that maybe you're limiting yourself too much because of the things that you are being told by your environment and society as a whole. Okay, swiftly on to number two, which is you need to stop falling into the extremism trap. And no matter how many times I talk about this, I will always blame it on social media. The algorithms favor all of the extremism content we are fed. So there is no wonder why we fall for such extremism beliefs, such as saving every penny we have or spending every penny we have. I am definitely not in the camp of the YOLO mindset, nor am I in the camp of saving every single penny, buying gift vouchers for every single thing. I think we should enjoy life too. When you look at both of these camps, saving everything or spending everything, kind of just look internally once again, like the previous point. Is it actually going to serve me? Because although you might see Steve on a random Thursday traveling the world, and then on the other end you might see Alex budgeting and scrimping for every penny, doesn't make either of them right. And in fact, in my opinion, they both lead to miserable, unfulfilled lives. So if you can focus on your own balance between saving and investing for your future, yes, but enjoying your life right now, that is the balance you need to find. Okay, so on to number three, trends are for teenagers and not adults. I've been seeing so many trends on social media lately, like I'm just a girl, or girl math, or I'm allergic to saving money. These are causing you extreme damage mentally. It's something called the sunken cost fallacy. It's basically a mental trap where you keep on doing something because you've already spent time, effort, and money on it. And I can't just talk about the girls or the women here, I have to talk about the lads as well. The amount of lads who signal wealth through cars and watches is absolutely beyond me. All of these trends are essentially just complete completely mixing up what true enjoyment is and just what a quick dopamine spike is. And it's causing people to overspend, probably get into a load of credit card debt, overdrafts and personal loans just to simply keep up with the trend that will probably be gone in about 6 months. I mean, realistically, if you look at this, how many trends have actually stayed around? Look at Labubus, for example. Where have they gone now? Look at Stanley Cups. Where have they gone now? They basically all just disappear after the social media hype has died down. So if you are falling for these trends, please just look internally of what you actually enjoy spending your money on that is personalized to you, not what social media wants you to purchase. Because that way you will be so much happier when you spend money. Okay, on to step number 4, which is prioritizing financial education. Now this one completely shifted my mentality. Beforehand, I used to overspend on the stupid stuff that I've mentioned previously in this video. And after I started learning about personal finance, my mindset shifted completely. I started looking at purchases differently. I started looking at trends differently. I started investing. I started saving. I started enjoying myself based on what I actually enjoy. There are so many life lessons, not just financial lessons, that you can learn from personal finance education. And I think this is the absolute foundation and necessity that almost every adult, no, in fact, every adult should go through. And honestly, I wish financial education was taught in schools. It's getting a lot better, but I wish it was still talked about more. But for those who do want to start prioritizing it, I'd start watching maybe more videos like this, or going to Spotify for podcasts, reading personal finance books, or watching YouTube videos, such as this again. I will definitely leave some of my favorites in the comments for all books, podcasts, and videos, but it is definitely something you should prioritize, even if you're only doing 30 minutes to an hour research every single week. Okay, on to step number 5, and we are getting into the nitty-gritty now. So you're actually going to start doing some practical things, and this one is tracking your income and outgoings. Yes, we are talking about budgeting because it is super important, and it doesn't have to be as boring as everyone else makes it out to be. Because you've got to think, if you don't know where your money is going, how can you get better with your finances at all? So what I would look to do is printing off the last 3 months of your bank statements, kind of laying them all out on the table and looking at what you're actually spending money on. Because what you might find is there are certain categories within your spending that you are going way too far on, or maybe even way too little on. This is where you can start to make priorities. If you're spending on autopilot on things that you don't even like, cool, you can now cut that and spend money meaningfully elsewhere. And I am not saying that you have to track every single penny, because I don't think every adult in the UK has to do that. Maybe if you're in dire situations, you might have to track every penny. But for the majority of us, we have to track in percentages and not numbers. So what I like to do is track in something called the 3 Fs. This is essentially tracking your fixed costs, your future fund, and your fun money. I would like to see for your fixed costs, so things like your rent, bills, food, subscriptions, mortgage, whatever it is, all the costs that pretty much stay the same, stick between 50 and 60% of your take-home pay. Your future fund can sit between 10 and 20% of your take-home pay, and your fun money percentage could be between 20 and 30% of your take-home pay. But the future and fun fund can be very flexible. You can save and invest more, or you can enjoy yourself more, as long as you're doing a little bit of both. But for the fixed cost percentage, I would love for you to keep it under 60%, because if you go over that, that is where issues can start to occur. And you kind of start feeling that sinking feeling in your stomach where you're kind of being drowned into just expenses. So yeah, get started on that right now. Okay, on to number 6, paying off any high interest debt, and this does not include student loans or mortgages. What I'm talking about here is any credit card debt, any personal loans, or any overdrafts that you hold. And what I would suggest doing on this, and I cannot give financial advice, so you need to do your own research on this, is setting up a debt payoff plan and looking at the snowball or avalanche method. Unfortunately, I can't talk about debt too much on this channel, but if you do have credit cards, personal loans, or overdrafts, look into them two methods, pick one, set up a plan, and pay it off in full every single month. And what I mean by high interest debt is anything over 7%. Okay, on to number 7, and we are starting to build some stability here, baby. So you're gonna look at setting up an emergency fund. So if you're full-time employed, I would look at 3 to 6 months of your living expenses saved in a high interest savings account. And if you're self-employed, I would look between 9 and 12 months of living expenses. The only reason I say this is because a full-time job is slightly more secure than self-employed. So that is why self-employed people should maybe have a little bit more saved. An emergency fund obviously is for any emergencies. Yeah, well done, genius. But essentially, if your boiler breaks down or your car tire falls off, or you have, I don't know, a leak in your pipes, then this is what the emergency fund is for. Instead of using credit cards, personal loans, or overdrafts to pay off any emergencies, you have a fund dedicated to these things because they will happen at some point. And oftentimes it's when you least expect it and when you least want it. And also, emergency funds aren't just for emergencies, they are for opportunities. For example, if you are not happy in your job right now and you get an opportunity to move elsewhere, you can take that jump because you have a massive pot of savings set aside just for this moment. Or if your boss is treating you like an absolute divvy, you can just leave whenever you want. Or you may even have a business opportunity that you want to take up. The point of an emergency fund and the emergency savings is not literally just for emergencies. It's for them freedom of options and to simply just help you sleep at night. So when people say, what is the point of saving money? It is for freedom of options, freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want, because that is what most people want. Okay, on to number 8, which is investing in the stock market. Unfortunately, when I started my journey, what I used to think is I can save my way to being rich, but unfortunately, that is a complete myth. A savings account at the minute is probably producing what, 3-4%, maybe a little bit more, but with investing in the last 100 years, it has averaged 7.5% adjusted for inflation. So that's going on 10.5% if you don't consider inflation. And in the UK, we are extremely fortunate. We have accounts like a stocks and shares ISA where you can invest up to £20,000 every single tax year completely tax-free, which means any capital gains or dividends are completely tax-free and anything you withdraw is tax-free. Not to mention the £60,000 tax-free allowance we have with our pensions. So whether you're self-employed and you need to use a SIP or self-invested personal pension, or you're employed and you have a workplace pension, please opt into this. A workplace pension is honestly one of the most underrated ways to invest money and grow it over the long term, because essentially your employer is going to be giving you free money for contributing to your pension. So in the UK, how it works is the minimum we have to contribute is 4%, the minimum the government have to contribute is 1%, and the minimum our employer has to match is 3%. So essentially you're getting 4% of your pre-tax annual salary given to you completely tax-free for your retirement pot. And if you're contributing to your stocks and shares ISA, you're contributing towards your pension while also trying to enjoy your life right now, you are on an amazing track that hardly anyone in the UK is on. And we haven't even talked about the magic of compound interest in this situation. Let's just say you're an 18-year-old, you've just started investing, you stick in £200 every month. At an annual average return of 8% over 40 years, you will be left with almost £700,000. And to put that into perspective, the average pension pot right now is £120,000. So yeah, investing is cool, and also enjoying your life right now is cool also. Okay, moving on to number 9, which can make some of the previous things a lot more easy, which is starting a side hustle. I always refer back to this quote by Ramit Sethi, but there is a limit to how much you can cut back, but there is no limit on how much you can earn. And a side hustle is a perfect example of this. What you are watching right now, used to be a side hustle of mine. And now this is my full-time job. It started replacing the income I was earning from my full-time job. It actually started overtaking it. So eventually I could take the leap. And this is something I'm extremely passionate about. I'm not sure about you, but my 9 to 5 wasn't really something I was totally passionate about. It was just something I kind of had to do for the money, really. I absolutely loved the people that I worked with, but in my heart and soul, I knew I was meant for something else. And that is something you can do alongside your 9 to 5. I'm not saying it's not going to take dedication, because it certainly is. I sacrificed pretty much every weekday evening for 2 years in order to make this work. But also, because I loved it, it didn't really feel like a sacrifice in the moment. So whether it's content creation like this about something you're passionate about, whether it's market research, whether it's mystery shopping, whatever it is that you choose, even you add £200 a month on top of your salary, that can be a huge game changer for a lot of people right now. And I know it is going to take a lot of effort, and we shouldn't really have to do this, but also when you think of it, it's given you an opportunity to try a side hustle about something you're passionate about that could potentially lead to you leaving your job. So every cloud, I guess. Because in my opinion, if the economy wasn't as bad while I was working my 9 to 5, maybe I wouldn't have tried the side hustles. Maybe I would have got extremely comfortable in that 9 to 5 because I could live very well. But because that wasn't the case, I dedicated myself elsewhere, worked weekday evenings, and finally some of that sacrifice paid off. But also I will leave some of my favorite channels for side hustles, because that is definitely not my expertise. Obviously I've succeeded in this, but obviously not everyone wants to start content creation. They might want to do something completely different. So I'll leave them below. And lastly, which pretty much filters back to everything we've talked about in this video, step number 10 is delayed gratification. It's probably something you've heard before and a lot of people explain before, but in this context, when we're talking about personal finance and side hustles, it just hits differently. Because unfortunately, your savings are going to take a lot of time to build up. Your investments are also going to take a lot of time to build up. And also your side business is going to as well. And you kind of have to get comfortable with that. You kind of have to come to terms with that. Otherwise, you're just going to bounce back to your previous habits. And you'll just be in this perpetual cycle of starting something, stopping something. This cycle will just never end if you let it. But if you can just remember that time is going to pass anyway, and the hours and days, weeks and months and years that you are living right now are going to pass anyway, that gives you so much more freedom when trying things. If you're 20 years old, you've got to remember you are only a 2-year-old adult. If you're 25, you're only a 7-year-old adult. And apparently, if your life was on a 24-hour clock, if you are age 30, you are only at 7 a.m. in the morning. So if you can learn with your finances and anything that you're trying that time is going to be needed, and you just find peace in that, you are going to be so much more successful than pretty much anyone in this country. So I hope this very long, probably video has helped you kind of help find your own personal plan of what you're going to do next. Because although this is a 10-step roadmap that probably looks like it's for everyone, it's all gonna look so much different for everyone. So yeah, if you do want more personal finance content like this on YouTube, remember to hit that subscribe button, tell me what you want in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.